Hello, Craig Crawshaw here from Oaks Bible Church, Santa Barbara with our 22nd video post on 1 Corinthians 15, trying to help us understand what the resurrection means for us today. 1 Corinthians 15 has been called the resurrection chapter of the Bible because that's what it teaches all the way through, but perhaps it should rather be called the bodily resurrection chapter. Why? Because I think we're going to see from today's text that the first heresy of the early church, or certainly one of the first, was the denial of the bodily resurrection of Jesus Christ, that he was really a man, really died, and really resurrected. Look at verse 35 where we are today. But someone will say, and here are two questions. Note the two questions. How are the dead raised? And with what kind of body do they come? Do you remember that back in 1 Corinthians 7:1, Paul began saying, I want to answer some questions that you've been asking. And so 1 Corinthians 15 is an answering of those questions. And here are two of them here. Question number one, how are the dead raised? How does that even happen? It seems like a fair question to ask. And the second question, with what kind of body do they come? What are we going to look like? We might think that's a question. Gosh, I'd like to know that too. But look at Paul's response. In the next verse, in verse 36, he says, you fool. In other words, Paul is suggesting that to even ask those questions as they ask them implies that they're denying or questioning the fact the resurrection even existed. They just want an answer to verify the fact that they're right in saying there's no resurrection. Paul says, you fool, that which you sow does not come to life unless it dies. There must be a resurrection. It makes sense that Jesus resurrected. It makes sense that when you put a seed into the ground and it dies, it bears forth fruit. It makes sense that when we go into the ground, we too will rise because Jesus has risen. And so he's going to answer these two questions. He's going to answer the first one second. He's going to answer that beginning in verse 50, and we're going to get to that in future posts. But he answers the second one right here. And with what kind of body do they come? And he starts by saying, you fool, don't you know that you have to die first? And in the next number of posts, we're going to talk about that. What kind of body do they come with? And of course, we don't have all the answers to that. Paul wasn't given all the answers, and we don't know exactly. But we know a lot from seeing the example of Jesus, and we know a lot from this particular passage, which we're going to look at in the posts to come. So come on back.